Blessings to you. I pray that all is well. Forgive me for my tardiness. I had technical difficulties. Thank you. Thank you. Well, we're going to go ahead and get started, and I want to welcome everybody to Deliver Me From Me. My name is Apostle Alecia Biggers, if you do not know. And on this station, this is where we talk deliverance. We talk self-deliverance. And I begin to share with you things, life lessons that I have learned. And so today we got a good topic, and it's called, we're going to talk about being mentally broken and unaware. Mentally broken and unaware. Can I tell you, this is a passion of mine because I was broken. This is a personal testimony of myself. I was broken in so many areas, in so many ways, and I did not know that I was broken. Being brought up, raised in certain situations in life, and I thought it was normal and did not know that I was broken mentally. What am I talking about mentally? I'm talking about in your soul, in your mind. That's why the Bible said my people perish because they lack knowledge. And a lot of times, if you don't have the right information, you'll find yourself being in bad situations in life. And it's because you don't know and you haven't been exposed to the teaching or to the education. And so on this station, this is where I believe in educating people, because if we're going to make our families better, if our churches are going to be better, we got to begin to be better people. And so we can fake it till we make it. We can wear the nice clothes. We can stay in the big houses. But guess what? You still can be tore up in those places. I'm talking about tore up in the mind, because on the outside, it may look like that we're fine. But on the inside, mentally, this is why we can cuss one another out, calling each other hoes and bees, and we don't think nothing wrong with it. We can call one another divas and don't understand that we're calling one another a female demon. This is where we can fuss and fight, and we can argue and call our children, our daughters, heifers, and calling our sons UMF, and we don't think nothing wrong with it. See, this is an indication that we have become broken as a people. And so I got a definition. Even the world even know what the word broken means. Broken means to be mentally and spiritually damaged and no longer in a working condition. Even the world knows that when you are no longer in a working condition. In other words, so when you can't parent your children in a healthy way, when you can't be in a marriage in a healthy way, when you can't have a good friendship with somebody in a healthy way, when you can't go to church and go to work in a healthy manner, that you always got to cause chaos. There always got to be some type of division. There always got to be some type of separation. You got to know that you are broken. And so we're going to talk about today how to recognize when your conscience have been broken. How do we become broken? We become broken from past experiences, from experiences that have hurt us, from rejection, from disappointment, from let down, from being cheated on, being lied on, being manipulated, being looked over, being walked over, being talked about. And so guess what? And so when you have these things have happened to you, it causes you to now begin to function in a broken place. Because when somebody talk about you, you was feeling pretty good. You may had on an outfit and you thought that you was looking cute. But but then somebody begin to start talking about you and everybody start laughing, guess what it does? It damages your conscience. It messes with your conscience. And this is what I'm talking about. And so if you have not had anybody in your life that would tell you that's okay and to reinforce you, to break off that stuff people have said about you, you will believe what that person has said about you. And guess what? It would change your perception of yourself. That's why we're talking about for the month of September. What do you see? Because a lot of times we see what other people see about us. We don't see ourselves the way God sees us. We see ourselves from what people, what mankind has spoken about us, what mama has spoken, what daddy has spoken, what your boyfriend, what your lover, what your husband, what your wife, what your teacher has said. We see ourselves from a broken lens and a broken viewpoint. And the sad thing about it is sometimes we have not gotten healed to recognize how to fix the brokenness. But what happened is the brokenness has shaped the way that we see ourselves. The brokenness has shaped the way that how we look at life, how we look at other people, because we based it on something that has happened to us. And so I got a definition for a conscience. What is your conscience? Your conscience is the invisible part of your mind. It's your experiences. It's your eternal thoughts. It's your feelings, your memories. It's the way that you see the world. It's the way that you see things around you. And so we see the world from broken lenses, especially if you grew up in a household where you saw brokenness. Because guess what? As parents, if you are broken, unfortunately, guess what? We teach our children. We teach our children how to see things through brokenness. And so therefore, if we have a dirty home, guess what? And our children looking at us, guess what? They're going to learn that when they get finished eating that candy paper, to throw it on the floor, because they see you throw it on the floor. And so if they see daddy call people names, guess what the little kid's going to do? They're going to call other people names, because this is what a broken conscience would do. And so it's not like we was taught, but as little kids, we begin to observe this type of behavior, and it calls us to see from a polluted and a broken lens. And so in our mind, we walk around being broken. And the sad thing about it is this is why Jesus came. Jesus came to restore mankind. He came to heal us. He came to deliver us. But you got so many people feel like, oh, I don't want to do the church thing. Can I tell you, Jesus is not about church. Jesus is about relationship. It's where his spirit lives in you, and he want to help you to fix the brokenness in your head. This is why sometimes we can be fine with somebody cussing us out. Ladies, this is why sometimes we can be fine with somebody calling us a B and we don't think nothing about it. This is why you find some women, well, I'm a bad B. And that's a broken conscience. This is where a conscience is broken. And this is where men call themselves dog. Oh man, I'm a dog. Oh man, I'm a pimp. You know why they can call themselves a pimp? Because they're broken in their mind. They're broken in their mind, and they can't see themselves in a healthy way. So they have begun to learn to see themselves from brokenness. In other words, they're no longer whole. They're no longer fit to see themselves how God sees them, but they see themselves based off life's perceptions. This is why some people, oh, I don't have anything because I don't live in a good part of a good part of the city. And so therefore, if people being taught these things, guess what? It shapes the way that the person looks at themselves. And if the people do not have a relationship with God, this is why it's very pertinent that we read the word of God, because the word of God is going to give you your identity. The word of God is going to show you how you're supposed to see yourself and how he heals you with his blood. But if you never get into that place of learning that and allowing what Jesus did on the cross, guess what? It will cause you to walk around being broken. So I got a scripture. I want you to write down Proverbs 13 and 12. And it says, hope deferred, it makes the heart sick. Hope deferred makes the heart sick. And so in other words, hope is something that you want, something that you've been believing. And so when you don't get what you want, deferred means something have been postponed. That means you've been waiting. And so when you've been waiting for daddy to come and buy you that bike, and he said he's going to come and get you, and he never shows up, it's where your husband or the wife saying that, you know what, we going to make this work. And then they never come up to the part what they promised to do. In that hope, and you're just waiting, and you're just waiting, that it begin to cause your mind to be sick. It caused, did you hear me? It caused your mind to be sick when you're waiting on somebody to say that they're going to do what they said they was going to do. You heard them say it, but they never do it. And so when they never do it, they say, you know what, I'm going to prove to you I love you. We're going to make this work. We're going to go get this house. We're going to go get this car. Give me another year and I'm going to marry you. Come on, I need you to begin to let me borrow this money and I'm going to give it back. You begin to have these false promises and you're just waiting and waiting. And guess what it does? It makes your heart sick. And when your heart begins to get sick, it breaks your conscience. It breaks the way that you see life. It breaks the way that you feel about yourself, because in your mind, you put all your hope and all your trust in this individual, in this situation, in your boss, in your friend, in your next door neighbor, in your mom and your dad, and you was let down. It makes your heart sick. What is sick? You're no longer in working condition. You're no longer in a place where now God can really do what he needs to do in you, because you have been broken off of the experience that would have happened to you. And so when I was talking about people are broken, the number one reason people are broken is because they are ignorant. People have become ignorant. What is ignorant? Ignorant when you're no longer trying to find out the information. Ignorance when you're not trying to educate yourself. You just letting the chips fall the way that they fall. And so whatever happened to you in life, you just move on and go to the next situation. And so therefore you got all these unresolved issues going on in your life, and you never address these issues. It causes a person to become broken. And so when this person becomes broken, it now begins to cause them to walk in low self-esteem. It causes them to walk in abandonment. They don't have an identity for themselves. They don't love themselves. They walk in bitterness. They walk in anger. They walk in rejection. They walk in disappointment. They walk in all different types of emotions and feelings based off of what another person have done to them. And so even if you have not got yourself together, blessings to you, when you have not dealt with your issues mentally, it's going to cause you to be broken. And so this is why on this station, we have to be able to deal with unresolved issues, because guess what? If you never dealt with your unresolved issues, even in childhood, you know what? They're going to begin to manifest in your adult life. Because guess what? When you know broken in your childhood, as an adult, you're going to look for broken relationships. You're not going to look for healthy relationships. You're going to look for what's been put in your eye gates, what's been put in your ear gates, and whatever that was demonstrated to you in your childhood, subconsciously, you're not doing it intentionally, but subconsciously, you're going to look for people that's going to hurt you, people that's going to use you, people that's going to break you. Why are you saying that, Apostle? Because that's what you have put in your mind by what you saw. Because when you looked at mama and daddy, you observed brokenness. You observed the mind being sick, the mind being disappointed because of life situations. And so as a child, you begin to learn how to now adapt yourself to being sick mentally. And so many people are broken and they are not aware that they're broken. This is why you see so many people jealous and envious, and they backbite and they two-faced and they split tongue. This is why they're so wicked, because this is what they observe. People, we begin to become creatures of habit. We begin to start thinking alike what we saw. So if you see people stealing, you see people robbing, guess what? That little baby is going to learn how to steal. That little baby gonna learn how to rob based on what they observe. And so when you do not deal with what you saw. This is where you got to parent yourself as an adult. This is where you got to go back and learn things that what you saw, what was right and what was wrong. But if you never deal with these issues, guess what? You're going to find yourself walking in a broken place and you're not going to be aware of it. You're going to find yourself being attracted to abusive people that's going to take you through a lot of trials and tribulations, because that's what's in you, and your brain begins to record what was put in on the inside of you. And so this is why I showed you in Proverbs 13 and 12, hope deferred makes the heart sick. Your heart becomes sick when you've been waiting and you've been waiting. And the sad thing is you keep on waiting and you don't see no change, but you keep waiting. See, this is when we are really abused. We keep waiting for things to change. We keep waiting for the person to change. You keep waiting for the situation to change. That's an indication that you're broken, because when you're not doing anything, but you're waiting for the situation to change, when you are not changing, that's an indication that you are broken. This is where you're not in a working condition. This is where you don't even see that nothing is wrong with you. So when you're broken, sometimes we have a tendency, we start hanging around other broken people because we begin to find people who are familiar with us. We begin to recognize that, you know what, anything that's going to cause me that I got to put some effort to, anything that's going to cause me to change, most people run from it, because when you are broken, you don't want to do anything. You just want to wish, and oh, God is going to do it. God is going to fix it. God's going to turn it around. But can I tell you, you got to put some effort to that faith. The Bible says faith without works is dead. Yes, you got to pray, but you got to put some actions to it. You got to put some things with it. In the natural, you can say, I'm going to lose weight, but guess what? You're going to have to exercise. You're going to have to watch what you eat. You're going to have to cut back. Yes, you believe God for it, but you're going to have to put some effort with it. And so this is where we got to recognize we got a lot of unresolved issues. This is where you got to begin to say, you know what? Look, how come I'm not faithful? How come I'm not committed? How come I'm a liar? How come, how come I'm not committed? How come I'm not a support? You got to begin to look at yourself and deal with unresolved issues. And this is the part where I found out a lot of saints don't want to deal with themselves. It's easier to point the finger at what another person isn't doing. But I found out believers, people in the church, don't like to deal with themselves. They don't like looking in the mirror, looking at what they need to do. It's easy to say what somebody else needs to do, but you got to get to the root of the problem. Where are you broken at? Because when you can't tell where you're broken at, it's going to be a problem in your life. It's going to be a problem in your marriage. It's going to be a problem with your children. It's going to be a problem with your friendships. It's going to be a problem in every area of your life, because the way that you think is not healthy. And so it's just like you trying to vacuum, but your vacuum cleaner is stopped up. Yeah, you can hear it, but when the moment you start trying to vacuum, it doesn't suck up anything. So what's wrong? It's not working properly. And so this is why we see our relationships are not working properly, because we got some stuff going on in our head and we just waiting for this magical relationship to come that's going to be so special, but you have not put the effort to work and to change yourself first, so that you can recognize the relationship God have for you. Because I can tell you, been there, done that. Waiting on things to be perfect, waiting on somebody else to change, but me not changing. Not understanding that's not the way it works. It works when you change. You got to change. Why do I got to change? Because when you stand before God, he's not going to ask you about nobody else. He's going to ask you about you. And so if you said that you are his child, he want to know, did you do what you were supposed to do? And so this is where it's going to have to take some effort. It's going to have to take you using some elbow grease. And so what's another area that we got to recognize when we are broken? When you stop seeking God. When you stop seeking God, we have turned into church goers. We think as we go to church and we just read the scriptures, we have assumed that that makes us a child of God. Can I tell you that's not the truth? The devil reads the word and the devil goes to church. And so you got to understand, the Bible tells us to be a doer of the word. And so when you are not doing what the word says, that's an indication you are broken, because you're trying to live your life without your creator. You're doing and you're making decisions without him. You're not asking him, should you take that job? You're not asking him, is this the right person you should be with? You're not asking him, is this the time to buy that car? Is this the time for you to move? When we are making decisions without God, that's an indication you have disconnected yourself, and that's an indication that you are broken. But see, our culture have gotten us thinking, oh, I know what I'm doing. And you, especially this generation X and Y, they're making all kind of decisions and have not educated themselves. Some don't want to listen to their parents. Some don't want to seek godly counsel, and they find themselves in all kinds of situations. It's because they have learned to be broken from looking at their parents, and so now they don't want nobody to teach them anything. You got children in school don't even want to listen to the teacher. You got children telling the teacher what to do. They in kindergarten, they telling the teacher to shut up. They in the kindergarten telling the teacher, I'm not going to do what you say. You got to begin to understand. I was looking at a little girl on Facebook, and she had to be 3 years old, and she was telling the lady at the daycare, you know what, I can't wait till I get away from you because you getting on my nerves. This is a 3-year-old talking back to an adult as if it was no problem. And she said, I can't wait till you get out of my face because you getting on my nerves. And seeing, this is where we're dealing with a broken people, but we begin to look at it as if, oh, it's fine, oh, it's cute. No, it's not cute. It's an indication, because this little girl, if she's talking back to a grown-up at 3 years old, what do you think she's going to say to her mama when she get to be 12? My goodness, she's going to try to run the whole household. And see, and this is why we got a lot of children that do not respect their parents. But if we was reading the Bible say, children, obey your parents, for it is right that your days may be long. And so you got a lot of children dying early because guess what? They don't respect their parents. And guess what? The parents have not showed them how to honor and respect other people, nor to respect themselves. So they hear their mom and daddy cussing each other out, so they thinking it's okay. And so you got a broken people in a broken society. So when we feel like we can live our life without God, and you don't have to get in the word, you are broken. When you feel like you can make decisions on your own, you're dealing with a broken mentality. When you don't have any standards in your own life, whenever you let people run over you, you let people take advantage of you, and you're a people pleaser, whatever to do to make somebody else happy, that's an indication that you are broken. Because when you love yourself, you are not going to allow somebody to run over you, even though you care about them, but you're not going to allow them to walk over you. And so, like, again, when your heart is sick, you think that it's okay because I just want somebody in my life. I just want my kids to be here with me. I just want to be in a relationship. I just want somebody to care about me. But because when you have not dealt with your brokenness, you will accept anything, and you won't have any standards or any boundaries to look at. The next thing, when you're broken, you will tolerate dysfunction. Where you know a person is lying to you, you know a person is taking advantage of you, you know a person is devaluing you. And so therefore, because your conscience is broken, you don't say anything. Well, I just pray about it and I just let the Lord work it out. No, what you're doing is you're broken mentally. You're broken in your mind when somebody can devalue you. When you're in a dysfunctional relationship, they taking your money, they disrespecting you. When they're not, when you tell them no and they do it anyway, you got to understand you are broken mentally. And when you let another individual do you like that, they are training you how to become broken, and you're telling them it's okay because you're allowing them to do it. So if you tell your child, no, you can't go, and they go out the door anyway, and you don't say anything, you're letting them know that it's okay what they're doing. And so guess what? They're training you that I'm going to disrespect you as my parent because you are not showing me any, you're not showing me any authority that you have in my life, that you let me do what I want to do. And see, and this is what we got to understand. We are broken people. This is why you have so many people, you don't even know what you like. You like what everybody else like. You doing what everybody else doing. This is why if you look on social media, people are doing the same thing. People are sitting up there, this challenge where we gonna stick our finger in the blueberry ice cream, and you got other people, all people doing these challenges. They're doing things. They're being a follower and not a leader. Some of this stuff that we know that we should not be doing, but because you are broken, you think that it's okay, and you don't find any problem wrong with it. That's when you got to understand something in the way that you think, that you really don't have an identity. When somebody asks you what's wrong and you can't articulate what's wrong, when somebody is hurting you and you can't tell them that they're hurting you, that's an indication you have been broken from an unresolved issue. And if you don't say anything, you are training yourself to walk around sick mentally. And we have so many people sick mentally, and then they expect that if you just pray for me, everything is gonna change. No, you got to do more than just pray, baby. You're gonna have to change the way that you think. You're gonna have to change what you're doing. Sometimes it's like that baby. When that baby is playing with that ball, and it's a circle, it's a square, and it's a triangle, but the baby is trying to put the circle in the square, and the baby's seeing that it don't fit. And that's the same thing we trying to do. You've been trying to make something fit for 2 years, for 5 years, for 20 years, for 30 years. We trying to make situations fit, and that's an indication that you are broken, because it shouldn't take 20 years for you to recognize something is wrong. And so it's taken us so long. You got so many people, they are in churches where they're not growing, and they have become accustomed where this is where mama is, this is where my whole family is. But you fail to realize when you stand before God, God is not going to ask you about your mama, your daddy, your grandmama. He's going to say, if those people could not help you, if those people didn't help you to learn how to walk in healing, how to deal with your insecurity, how to deal with your, learning how to love yourself, and yet you singing on the choir, yet you having a good time, but then yet you popping pills, you're getting high, you're getting drunk, and there's no change in your life, and all you hear is blessing, 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 blessings. You are dealing with a broken people, because we have so many people in our churches now. They're so blessing driven. It's all about blessing. Bless me, bless me, bless me. And you got prophets will pray a whole service prophesying to people when people's souls have not been saved. People have not been delivered, and they so accustomed to the prophetic word that they don't even want to hear God's word. This is an indication that you're dealing with a broken people, and the mind is sick. Because when you're coming to church, you're supposed to be learning about your creator. You're supposed to be learning about this God that lives on the inside of you. But when you don't have an understanding of who he is and what it is that he requires out of your life, and that you're going to have to make some necessary changes, what you're doing is learning that being brokenness is your portion. And so when you hear a person like me trying to teach people the truth, people get upset because they don't want to work. They don't want to change. They looking for other people to change, but themselves want to stay the way they are. They feel like, I got a reason to have unforgiveness in my heart. I got a reason to be mad. I got a reason. You don't know what happened to me. Well, I can tell you, I may not know, but Jesus died for whatever reason it is, and we're not going to have an excuse when you stand before him. And so this is where we got to understand that our conscience have been broken. We have really been broken, because when you got parents don't even make sure their children go to school, parents letting their children stay up to 10 and 12 o'clock knowing that their kids got to go to school, and then it's fine. That's an indication that you're broken. When you in a marriage and your spouse is sleeping with all kind of people, you sleeping with all kind of people, both of you all are broken. When you sitting up there looking at somebody and they with all these people and you know it, and you sitting up here, well, I'm waiting on God to change them. God ain't finna change nobody who don't want to change. And so this is where we got to really understand that a lot of this stuff we've been believing, it's been lies. It's been lies because we waiting on somebody to magically change because we want them to change. But you can't make a person change that don't want to change. And this is where you got to understand. People will walk away from God-ordained relationships because they don't want to change. People will walk away from marriages because they want to do what they want to do. They don't want to do it God's way. And so you got to understand when people have showed you, they may not told you, but when they showed you, I'm not going to change. When they showed you, you can do it all this praying, fasting, what you want to do. You got to begin to understand you can't make nobody change. And when we trying to fast and pray, been there, done that, fast and praying for years and years and years, and God saying, I ain't finna change nobody's mind that don't want their mind changed. You got to understand that you have been broken when you're trying to get somebody to do something that they don't want to do. Because see, that's what witchcraft is. When you're forcing and making somebody to do some stuff that they don't want to do, you trying to control, you trying to manipulate. Well, if you don't do this, I ain't gonna do that. Now you're opening up the door to witchcraft. And so we got to begin to understand that we got to look at ourselves and realize that this is not the mind that we have, that it's not of God. And I can tell you, I grew up all my life, I've been in church. But being in a church where to realize that I was broken, I wasn't taught that I was broken. I was taught that I was fine. I was taught that it was the way that it is. And I don't know if they knew. I think some people don't even recognize that they broken. They just assume that this is just the way that it is. And so I believe that God has brought me in such a place, in such a time as this, to help people to realize that we are broken. Just because you got the big house, yeah, you broken. Just because you got the Mercedes and the BMW, yeah, you broken. Just because, yeah, you got the 20-year marriage, you still broken. You got to understand when we tolerate dysfunction and we're not in a working condition and we're bringing God's glory, something is wrong with us in the way that we think. And God can't do anything until we change our mind. That's why Romans 12 say, be ye transformed by the renewing of your mind. That means your mind has to think new. You got to think differently. That means to move from one place to another place. When you're talking about that word renewal, it means to see something that you've never seen before. He says, so you got to be willing to be renewed in your mind daily. In other words, you got to be analyzing what you're doing, comparing to reading the word of God, analyzing your life. So if I'm a gossiper, so when I read that word, it's telling me I need to apply this to my life. I need to stop gossiping. I need to stop spreading people's lies. Spreading people's business. I need to stop. That word is telling you what's got to be applied to your life. And so when we're not applying these things to our life, that's an indication that you're still broken. And so we have become such a broken people that this is why so many people have went into witchcraft, because they are broken and they get upset when you don't do what they want you to do. This is where they manipulate. This is where they deceive. This is where they lie, because they're now trying to force their brokenness on another individual. And if another individual decides that's not what I want, and that person said, well, you know what, I'm going to make you. You know what, you're going to do what I tell you to do. If I can't have you, can't nobody have you. This is when you start hearing all these word curses. This is when you hear people, if you leave the church, you know what, something bad going to happen to you. No, if I left the church, you got to understand that, ain't nothing bad going to happen to me if I leave the church. Why? I have not left God. I'm leaving your church, but I have not left God. And so we got to find out, people are speaking curses on people, but because we're so broken, we have become accustomed to listen to brokenness, that when you hear the truth, we're afraid to move with the truth, but we will find ourselves being familiar with brokenness. We'll find ourselves being familiar with people telling you, you ain't going to prosper if you leave, that you know what, that if you leave here, you know what, you're going to lose your house, you're going to lose your family, God going to leave you. That's not the Bible. This is what we got to understand. We have become so broken in church. This is where you got people in the church going to see the root worker, people in the church going to the tarot card, people in the church speaking curses and paying people to do stuff. This is where you got to understand you're dealing with a broken people when you saying God is not enough, that you gotta go to the devil to make somebody do something that you want them to do. You gotta understand something something is wrong with the way that you think. When you got a spouse and you in a marriage and you saying, you know what, this hurts me. I don't like this. And you keep saying, this hurts me. And then you keep on saying, well, I'm just going to wait. I'm just going to wait on God. I'm just going to wait on God. How long are we going to keep waiting on God? Because you got to understand, so many people have lost their lives waiting on God when they should have been left, because church people told people, you just wait on God and you pray, not understanding you can't make a person change. If God don't make a person change, you and I should make a person change. And so then here, our children are looking at us living these dysfunctional lives, and guess what they're doing? They're now observing, and it's a code is being put into their mind, programming their mind. You be attracted to somebody that's going to do you like that. That's what the mind, because your brain is a big tape recorder. Your brain records whatever that you see. Why do you think little babies, they're always looking? They always observing. Because you know what? They're recording the information. Babies are recording the information when they in their mother's womb. They recording if a mom in the club while she pregnant, that baby is recording already in their brain the type of person who their mother is, and that baby is being shaped by whatever that's going on in that mother's life. And so this is what we got to begin to understand. We're dealing with this brokenness and we're not aware of it. You got people sitting up there having children, and they're having children, and they're not trying to nurture their children, love their children, take care of their children, but they're trying to have a baby to keep a man. Then now you're ignoring the child because you got to do all this stuff. You're trying to see if he with another woman. You're trying to see what he doing, not understanding that you have abandoned your child. Yeah, they got a place to stay. Yes, they got on the J's. Yes, they look good on the outside, but mentally you have not hugged them. Mentally you have not kissed them. Mentally you have not told them that they're beautiful. You have not told them that they can do it. Mentally you have not helped them with their homework. Mentally you're not reading a book to them. So you are guiding children here that had this baby trying to keep this man. Now this child is in this world feeling, don't nobody care about me. Don't nobody love me. Here it is, the child don't have an identity because they watching you tending to another person. So now guess what that child is going to learn? That child is going to learn you tend to other people, and hopefully they're going to love you if you tend to them. See, it's a program, and we can keep on doing all this stuff until we go back to see, why do I think the way that I do? Because this is one of the things that I'm teaching in the mentorship program. You got to begin to look at, why do you think the way that you do? And if you're not willing to go back to say, why am I like this? How come I'm so quiet? You go back to the root because you were probably told to shut up. You were probably told to keep your mouth shut. You got to go to the root. Why do you do what you do? So when you're not paying attention to yourself, when you're not dealing with the unresolved issues, how come you're afraid to go back to school? How come you're afraid to go move in that house? How come you're afraid to go apply for that job? That's an indication of the brokenness, because of fears, because of being told that you're not good enough, being told that you're not smart enough, that it has you at a place you don't even want to go outside. You rather stay in a room because you don't want to be rejected by people. You don't want people to talk about you. You don't want people to push you aside. See, this is an indication we got so many people are dealing with broken conscience, and they're mentally broken, and their heart is sick. Because we have not gotten in the word to allow God to renew us. And so this is where you feel lost. You feel numb. You don't know how you feel. You're bound by your fears. You're dealing with anxiety. You're dealing with frustrations, and you don't know how to deal with it because nobody modeled to you how to handle your fears. Nobody modeled to you that when you fail to get back up and try it again. Nobody modeled to you that when somebody called you a name to tell you that, you know what, to say, you know what, no, I'm beautiful. No, I'm smart. Oh, I can do this. No, you never seen anybody do that to you. So if you haven't had another individual to teach you this, guess what it taught you? It taught you how to walk around broken. And so now we begin to accept all different types of things, like you a trash can, people giving you their leftovers. People want to talk to you any kind of way. People want to overlook you. People want to turn their head and act like you ain't there. You talking and they act like you ain't nowhere in the room. And you looking straight at them. It's because you're mentally broken. And so when you saying, you know what, I just don't want to say nothing. I'm just going to let God handle it. What you're doing is teaching a person it's okay to treat me like this. And so when you're anxious, and then when you just doing stuff, you can't be still because you don't want to deal with you. You don't want to think about you. This is why you have so many people drinking. You got so many people because they don't want to look at past mistakes. They start doing drugs. They start snorting cocaine. They start getting into different things because they trying to get something to numb the voices that they got in their head because they don't want to deal with this brokenness. When you have not given yourself time to heal, you leave one broken situation and you go and get into another broken situation. This is how come brokenness keep coming to you mentally. Because you have not stepped back to say, well, you know what did I do wrong? What it is that that has me thinking the way that I'm thinking. Because you got to understand, this is where God is trying to show you. You need to begin to look at yourself and you need to heal. Let's look at Psalms 34. When you look at Psalms 34, it says in verse 17, the righteous cry out and the Lord hears. You got to understand when you are broken, whatever that we dealing with, every situation, we are supposed to cry out unto the Lord. So when you're not going back into a place of prayer, when you're not letting God know, empty yourself instead of calling your friend, calling your mama, calling your daddy, you need to tell the person who can work it out. We got to tell the person who can fix it. But when you too busy telling somebody who got their own share of problems and they don't know how to help you, but we're telling people who can't help us, but then here it is, you don't want to pray, you don't want to talk to nobody who can give you godly counsel. Oh, I don't want to hear what they got to say. Oh, I don't want to hear no scripture. Oh, I don't want to hear a sermon. But here it is, you saying you want to be healed. How can you be healed without God? You can't. And see, and this is where we got to begin to now open up our eyes and say, God, you know what? Am I broken and don't know it? Am I broken and don't know it? Because see, I'm taking my time to bring out different scenarios because I didn't hear people talking like this to let me know that I was broken. I'm thinking that the way that I thought it is what it is. Oh, you ain't good enough. You ain't smart enough. Don't nobody want you on their team. Don't nobody want you to sing on their choir. Don't nobody want you on the praise and worship team. Don't nobody want to hear what you got to say. So when I'm hearing them voices, guess what I'm thinking? It is the way that it is, not understanding that I was broken and the enemy was trying to use people to shut me down. The enemy was trying to use people to put me in a place of stagnancy. But if you do not recognize that you're broken, when you sit there and be a human trash can, he said you got to cry out. He said, and when you cry out, the Lord hears. You got to understand every time you dealing with a hurt, a pain, with your husband, with your wife, with your sister, with your brother, with the pastor, with the doctor, with the lawyer, whatever the situation may be, you're supposed to cry out to God. When we're not crying out to God, that's an indication that you're broken. This is why some people go to beer and liquor. Sometimes people go to drugs. Some people go to sex because they trying to fix a problem when you're supposed to be going back to your Creator. This is a problem in our churches. Well, I don't want nobody. Well, who's going to help you if you don't talk to God? Because some things is just right for God. He said the righteous cry out and the Lord hears. And he delivers them from all of their troubles. Do you not know that this is a promise? God said, I would deliver you from all your troubles. But he can't deliver you if you don't believe him. He can't deliver you if you ain't talking to him about it. You can't wait. You're not going to allow him to do what he need to do. How can he do what he need to do if you ain't talking to him about it? And I'm not just talking to God just because you're in trouble. I'm talking about establishing a relationship. Because when you're establishing a relationship with him, is where now you begin to talk to him when it's good. So therefore, when it's bad, you already know he gonna work it out. Because guess what? Y'all been communing. He been confirming his word. You've been matching what the pastor been talking about in Bible study. It been matching with what you've been praying at home. So he's gonna show you how things are. And so you got to establish this relationship. But you got some people, they want to wait till, oh, so-and-so going to jail. Oh, so-and-so sick. Oh, I need money to pay my rent. And so then now you expecting God to help you when you have not even talked to God all this week. But then now I want something. We got to be honest with ourselves. We're coming to him as a user. You're not coming to him because you want him. You come to him because you want somebody to pay your bill. You come to him because you want him to help your child. You come to him because you want him to work it out on your job. But otherwise, if the situation hadn't happened, would you have went back to God? Let's be honest. No, some people would not. And see, and this is where we got to be honest with ourselves. We are missing it because we're broken. And here it is. We're being taught that you just go to the church and God gonna bless you. You got to do more than just go to the church. You got to do more than just carry your Bible. You got to do what's in the Bible. You got to do what's in the word. And if you can't understand it, you got to begin to read a different version. You got to begin to go to Bible study. You got to begin to go to Sunday school. Don't sit up here and tell me we can do all this stuff for a degree. We can go to every day, an hour every day to go exercise to make sure our outside looking good. But then, yeah, you tell me you can't go 2 to 3 weeks to learn how to connect with the God who created you. That's an indication you are broken. But then, yet, God, I'm just waiting on God to send me my husband. I'm waiting on God to send me my man. When God is looking at you like, I'm your first husband and you can't even acknowledge me. But in your mindset, you're thinking like a person who's not saved, because when your conscience is broken, you're only thinking about yourself and you're not thinking about God, because God lives in you. Here it is. He know what we saying. He know what we doing. And we'll get up there in church and we'll act like, because that ain't what I want to hear. But not understanding, you go to the doctor because you want the doctor to help you because you're sick. Well, you're supposed to be going to church because you want God to reveal to you what's going on in your mind, how you thinking wrong, what you're doing wrong, are you connected to the wrong people? You're supposed to be hearing the word, and the word is going to, then when you go to church, it's going to help connect to what you're doing at home to be able to break some things open so you can begin to see, okay, you know what? I didn't recognize this what I was doing wrong. I didn't recognize, you know, I've been holding people in my heart. I'm still mad about what people did. I didn't know that God wouldn't answer your prayers. You wouldn't know this stuff if you ain't reading or if you're not going to a Bible-based church that's going to teach you present-day truth. I believe in teaching the people. Preaching is good. But you know what? We got to be taught, because we know how to play church. But do you know how to become the church? Do you know how to look like Christ? Because we're supposed to walk in his likeness and in his image. And so when you can't manifest him on the earth, you're coming as an imposter. And this is where you got to be willing to understand something is wrong. He says here in verse 18, the Lord is near the brokenhearted. He saves those crushed in spirit. So in other words, he's going to deliver you when your spirit is crushed. He's going to deliver you when you've been lied on, when you've been cheated on, when they manipulated you, when they raped you, when they talked against you, when you was abandoned by somebody, when you was left and you was tossed asunder, when you was disappointed. It says he will deliver you, but he's not going to automatically do it. That means you got to get in this word and you got to allow the word to heal these areas in your mind. You got to allow the word to heal the areas that's going on with you. You got to be willing to face your pain. You got to be willing to talk about this thing so that you can pick it out, to figure out what it is. Because when you go to church, you got to understand what what a pastor is. In the 23rd Psalm, it says, the Lord is my shepherd. A shepherd, do you not know he will pick the bugs off the sheep? And so a real shepherd is a person that will begin to reveal to you things that's going on in your life that's not of God. And they're going to show you this is a bug. You need to pull that off. This is a bug. You need to stop doing this. This is a bug. This is not good for you. So you're supposed to be going to church so you can hear about what's going on in your life to bring order in your life. But when your life is out of order, it's because you have become disconnected from your Creator and you're listening to the people in the world to fix you, not understanding you got to go back to your Creator. Because when a BMW is messed up, you got to take it back to the people at the BMW dealership. Why? Because they created it. Because the Ford person don't have the keys to fix the BMW. The world does not have the keys to fix the person who is a child of God. The world don't have those keys. God is the only one who can fix you. But otherwise, you're going to walk around feeling hurt, feeling broken, and He's allowing it. I shared with us earlier this week, God will put people in your life to give you instructions. He will give you parents. He will give you a pastor. He will give you a minister. He will give you godly counsel. But if you choose not to listen to the godly counsel, God will allow life experiences to teach you until you recognize, wait a minute, this is why we can be in situations the longest we've been in, and you say, why it took me so long? It took you so long because you chose not to deal with the area of brokenness in the way that you think. This is why sometimes we find ourselves in situations and you say, I can't believe I did this. I can't believe I didn't see that. I can't believe this, because you kept surrounding yourself around people who could not help you. How can God give you something if you ain't surrounding yourself? I had to realize when God called me as a prophet, I had to go to a church where there was prophets, because the church where I was going to, they didn't believe in prophets. So how could I get what I needed from a pastor that did not believe in prophets? I had to go and connect myself with people who were prophetic like me so I can begin to grow and do what God called me to do. Because the more that I stayed in a place where the pastor did not understand my call, I got frustrated. I got frustrated and I got disappointed, and I kept saying, God, why you ain't helping me? And God saying, I ain't kept you here. You stayed here because you was familiar. You stayed here because you was comfortable. You stayed here because you were waiting on somebody to do it for you, not understanding that change begins with you. And so as I get ready to close out, and we're going to pick up with part 2 next week, you got to understand change starts with you. The world don't change. You change. God ain't trying to change the world. He's trying to change the people in the world. And that's how people can see who we are. People can't tell who we are when the world changes. No, God is changing you. But you got to get around the right people so they can give you the right information, and you got to apply it to your life. And that's how you see change. You looking at a person who dealt with suicide, dealt with low self-esteem, rejection, dealt with insecurity, abandonment. God began to change and heal me because I began to put myself around the right people that will begin to show me how to walk in healing, to show me how to walk in deliverance. Because as long as I stayed in places where I was familiar, as long as I stayed in places where they could not help me, I found myself in bondage and they could not help me. This is where God is saying, you got to move. You got to move. Sometimes you got to be like He told Abraham, separate from your family, separate from your kindred. You got to move and you got to change your life and stop waiting on some savior to come and sprinkle some dust on you and everything is going to change. No, you got to change. Jesus had already came. And guess what? And if He lives inside of you, He gave you the strength and the ability to say, God, you lead me and guide me. You show me who the people you connected me with. You show me who the people who I need to connect with that's going to help me. So I can begin to allow my life to change, and I can walk through healing. I can walk through deliverance. Because if you're not doing your part, you're going to keep on. That's why, it saddens me. You got some people, they're being misled in churches. Because people prophesying, your blessing coming, your blessing coming. People waiting and waiting, and blessing still ain't came. You know why? Because the promises of God are conditional. God ain't finna bless you in your mind and your mind is wicked. God is not going to bless you and you need deliverance and you ain't trying to change. God is not going to bless you and you sitting up here got one foot in the church, one foot in the world. He said a double-minded man is unstable in all his ways. You got to understand the principles of God. God said you're going to be the hot or cold, but when you being lukewarm, he said, I'm going to spew you out of my mouth. Do he love everybody? Yes, he loves everybody. But you fooling yourself thinking that you can play both sides, because guess what? When you stand before God, he going to say, didn't you know what you was doing was wrong? Well, but I didn't help nobody. Well, did you not know other people who would help you? And well, yeah, I knew, but I just wanted to do this. You're not going to have an excuse when you stand before God. We get caught up in looking at people in the world, not understanding God is coming back for a remnant. What is a remnant? A remnant is a small select people. But people have gotten it twisted. He said the road to hell is wide and broad. And you got people thinking, God, I'm doing this or I'm doing this. And God know my heart, baby. You can say that all you want to, but you better read your word. God is looking back for a church without a spot, wrinkle, or blemish. That means you got to be lining your life up. Are we perfect? No. But guess what? I'm not how I was last year. I'm not how I was 6 months ago. It should be a change in your life. But when you're constantly up and down, you're unstable and you're double-minded. And you have not gotten to a place where you have gotten your mind healed. That's an indication your mind is still broken. Because when you still doing dabbling over here, dabbling over here, dabbling over here, you know what? You eat so much food, you don't even know what's right for you because you ain't applying what God's word has said. It's okay to listen to certain people, but your foundation got to be the word. And so if the word is not your foundation and you eating all over here and there, you looking for somebody else to make everything all right for you because you don't know who God is. And this is where God is saying, your conscience is broken. Your mind is broken. Your mind is broken. And it's sad to say, some people don't want to be healed. They don't want to be delivered. They want their blessing. Yeah, give me my house. Give me my car. Give me my man. Give me my woman. And they walk around, got to pop pills to go to sleep. Got every credit card is maxed out just to function. We got to understand something wrong. You got to steal from other folk and you sitting up there talking about God is with you. Or you got to sleep with somebody to pay your bills. Man, this is not God. This is where we have become so broken. And if you don't recognize that you're broken, you selling your body and you think that it's God. No, it's not. That's not the answer. And people tell you, you know you got to do what you got to do. It's not right. And this is where you got to understand the word going to be preached. It's got to go forth. God got to have somebody going to tell the truth. Now, whether or not you listen to it, that's on you. But it will not be said that you did not get it. Because God is such a good father. He going to make sure you get what you need. Now, it's up to you whether or not you eat it or not. If you don't eat it, it's on you. But you can't say God did not give it to you. And so I'm going to close out right here, and I'm going to continue part 2, talking about being mentally broken and unaware of it. This is something that we really got to say, God, help me. Show me in my life where I'm broken at. Because the sad thing is, we thinking that we fine, and you're not fine. Your mind is just as broke. We came from Proverbs 13 and 12. Say, hope deferred makes your heart sick. Your heart sick because things have not worked out the way that you wanted to work out. And you sitting up here talking about you fine. And your heart been sick ever since you've been a child. Now you 50 years old and your heart is still sick. This is where God wants to deliver you. You got to understand deliverance is the children's bread. But you got to want to be free. God is knocking on the doors of your heart. He's saying, open up the door. You got to let me come in. Because I'm not going to force you to do something that you don't want to do. This is Apostle Alecia Biggers. I will see you all next week on Deliver Me From Me. You all have a blessed weekend.